So there's this new phrase going around, which you guys might have heard. Take a look at this tweet from the White House. They say, since Putin began his military buildup on Ukrainian borders, the price of gas at the pump in America went up 75 cents. Here is Putin's price hike explained. Wait, what? Putin's price hike? Yeah, that's it. They're trying to frame this as Putin raising the prices of gas. Look at this clip from Joe Biden. I'm going to do everything to minimize Putin's price hike here at home.
I'm going to do everything I can to minimize Putin's price hike here at home. In coordination with our partners, we've already announced that we're releasing 60 million barrels of oil from our joint oil reserves. Half of that, 30 million, is coming from the United States. And we're taking steps to ensure the reliable supply of global energy. We're also going to keep working with every tool at our disposal to protect American families and businesses. I'm going to do everything I can to minimize Putin's
Wow. Let's listen to that again.
Price hike here at home. In coordination with our partners, we've already announced that we're releasing 60 million barrels of oil from our joint.
That's very climate friendly of you, Joe Biden, isn't it, huh? Very climate friendly of you. So obviously, it goes without saying that the price of crude has skyrocketed. It's at the highest point since July 2008, right? So went over $135 a barrel. The price of gas in European gas, also through the roof, skyrocketed. And of course, you know, the politicians, they sit there and laugh and they tell you, well, this is the price of democracy. Don't we all want to pay the price for democracy? It's worth it. It's worth it standing up to Putin. And they, of course, shift the cost onto the consumer, onto you. So you are going to pay for those weapons that are going to Ukraine, that the military contractors, the arms dealers benefit from, right? They line their pockets and build new swimming pools with. You are going to pay the price for higher gas prices. Because, you know, they want to insist on blocking Russian oil and banning Russian oil. That's what's going on, right? So now that they've banned Russian oil imports, because remember before, when crude hit the highest price since 2008, that was just because the Biden administration was thinking about banning Russian oil imports. They've done it now. They've gone ahead and done it. So again, the West is shooting itself in the foot, and it's the consumers, it's the citizens, the civilians who have to pay the price for these reckless politicians. Again, and here, look at this thread from the White House, right underneath. Look at this over here. They say U.S. oil production is approaching record highs, and we pumped more oil in the president's first year, in Biden's first year, than Trump's first year. Oil production is projected to be up more than 1 million barrels a day from January to December this year, and to rise nearly 700,000 barrels a day over the next year. Oh, hey, it's Joe Biden, the climate-friendly president, right? Remember that? And everyone was telling you, yeah, we got to vote for him. He's created these committees, like with Bernie Sanders' campaign. You know, you had AOC meeting with John Kerry so they could hash out a climate-friendly plan for Biden, right? Because he's the compromise, right? We have to vote for Biden. Biden is going to do something for your environment. Yeah, he's going to start pumping more oil. Wow, well done. Well done. That's great. That's great. Let the military guzzle more. Remember, the U.S. military, biggest consumer of oil. As a matter of fact, the United States, I don't understand what their point is here, because they're saying that they're going to start pumping out more oil. That's not going to save you. The U.S. is in number one when it comes to oil production, but it's a net importer because the United States consumes more oil than it can produce. So what happens? It ends up importing oil from other countries. Venezuela used to be one of the top, sources for the U.S. So the U.S. used to be a top client of Venezuela's. They used to import a lot from Venezuela. Russia is only 3%. 3% has millions of barrels, man. It's not nothing, right? And then, of course, there's Saudi Arabia. Let me just show you over here. Obviously, Venezuela changed, but now because they've cut off the Russians, they're going to beg Maduro to replace that. Because if you think 3% is nothing, yeah, you're in for a surprise, man. The gas prices don't agree with you. Take a look at this. So, here. So these are U.S. crude oil imports by country of origin, 1960 to 2018, right? So you can see Venezuela over here used to be quite a lot. And then, of course, with the sanctions, it started going down. Saudi Arabia, that's always been a lot. And with Russia, obviously, Russia is not one of the biggest ones, but it does represent a significant chunk. And it's no joke. That's why the U.S. is now going to appease Maduro, because they want help, right? And my point here is that the U.S., no matter how many, how much more oil they pump, they're not going to be able to keep up with what they consume. You know, when you run an empire and you have a war machine as big as the U.S. is, 800 military bases in spread out across the globe, that's not cheap. That's not cheap. You need a lot of oil. And saying that, the skyrocketing prices are okay because of democracy, but you have to pay for it. That's very nice. That's very easy to say when you're a politician, when you're Joe Biden, right? And I just got to laugh how they were claiming, oh, it's climate friendly, and, Biden, he's going to be great. And I know it's not a Green New Deal, but it's something close. And, what do you think this is going to do right now with fracking? What do you think is going to happen with fracking? It's going to go up. First of all, during the campaign, Biden and Kamala Harris, they lied. They said, we are not, when they were campaigning in the primary, the Democratic primary in 2020, they said that they're going to ban fracking, right? Both of them said that. And then as soon as they clinched the DNC nomination and they became the official candidates for the Democratic Party to run against Trump, then they changed their tune so they could appeal to Republicans. Then they said, no, we never said we're going to ban fracking. Of course not. No, that's a right-wing talking point. Trump is lying to you. We're never going to ban fracking. The true colors come out. Yeah, and of course they're not doing anything on that. Biden gets into office, and he some people think that he blocked a bunch of pipelines and drilling. He didn't block them. He just put a moratorium on them. He just postponed them. That's it. Right? So again, it's these half measures. It's enough to trick people and appease them, but it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And now that they're saying that this is Putin's price hike. No, it's not. Absolutely not. Let me show you this video from Jen Psaki, the White House spokesperson.
You may have noticed this week that your gas prices have gone up. I want to talk to you a little bit about why. A lot of
See, they got the propaganda ready. They're here to feed it to you. They're here to brainwash you and make you accept the price of their wars.
It has to do with Vladimir Putin. You may have noticed this week that your gas prices have gone up. I want to talk to you a little bit about why. A lot of it has to do with Vladimir Putin. The reality is that Russia is one of the 3 largest oil producers in the world. And the fact that they have started this conflict, invaded a foreign country, and they are such a big producer of oil in the world is the reason why the global oil markets are disturbed right now and why your gas prices are going up. The president's going to do everything he can to bring down the price of gas for the American people. But there are a few facts you should be aware of. U.S. production of oil and gas is rising. In fact, in the first year of the Biden presidency, there was more oil and gas produced in the United States than the first year of the Trump presidency. And there's opportunities to produce more from here. But part of this is on the oil companies. Right now, there are 9,000 approved unused permits that oil and gas companies could tap into now to ramp up production. So what the president is doing is ensuring we're taking steps here to get more oil out into the global marketplace. That includes the release of 40 million barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve back in the fall, and he just announced the planned release of an additional 30 million barrels. The only way to protect the United States over the long term is to become energy independent. That's why the president has been so focused on investing in clean energy technologies, so that we can rely on that and not President Putin to set the price of gas.
Wow. They're good, huh? It's good propaganda. You gotta hand it to them. It's actually extremely tacky. It's horrible. What does that mean at the end? The Putin to set the price? This is so ridiculous. I swear to God, they just, it infuriates me, right? They talk like children. They speak like children. They again have this like cartoonish villain caricature of Putin, like as if he has nothing better to do in the world than, you know, infiltrate the elections, and he's controlling gas prices. You know, he's sitting in the Kremlin and typing in numbers and raising up the price of gas so you can't get to work. You know, like he's responsible for every ill in the world. He has more time than any conceivable human has, right? It's unbelievable. He has so much free time on his hands. Jesus Christ. And you know what the worst part is? Like, people fall for this. People are stupid enough to believe the last sentence.
Energy technologies, so that we can rely on that and not President Putin to set the price of gas.
He's not setting the price of gas. You idiots did that. Russia was keeping the gas flowing to Europe, and it was also keeping the oil, the exports of crude going. You are the ones who blocked it. You are the... Dude, the price of gas in Europe, it only skyrocketed after the US said we're considering a ban on Russian imports. It didn't skyrocket when the invasion started, or as Putin likes to call it, the special operation. Let me show you over here. I mean, we were looking at this live the other day. We looked at this together. You remember when it was happening live, as it was happening. Right, so look here, okay? This is just UK natural gas, okay? Now you see it does increase quite a bit on February 24th, right? So it went from, what was it? 216. Well, already let's go here, okay? Let's be a bit more fair. So it went from 177 pounds, okay? And then it jumped to 323, so it basically tripled, almost tripled. But here in March, it exploded. That doubled again. It went up much higher than before, at a higher percentage, because the US said we're considering banning Russian oil. So look, obviously, yes, what Russia's doing, God, I hate to sound like them, Putin, like he's running what Russia's doing in Ukraine, obviously that affected gas prices. Yeah, of course. But when you, the United States, you're telling Germany, cancel Nord Stream 2, right? Cancel Nord Stream 2. Get rid of it. And you're also saying that we're going to ban Russian imports, then you are affecting the price of gas and the price of crude yourself. It's not just Putin setting the price. Christ, it's so childish. It's really so childish. I can't stand it. Here's another clip of Jen Psaki. Take a look.
Thank you, Jen. We just heard you say again that you think inflation is going to be temporary. We've heard you say that it was going to be temporary since last spring. So how long do you guys think temporary is?
Well, again, Peter, I think what we do is we rely on the assessments of the Federal Reserve and of outside economic analysts who give an assessment of how long it will last. The expectations and their assessment at this point continues to be that it will moderate by the end of the year. There's also no question that when a foreign dictator invades a foreign country, and when that foreign dictator is the head of a country that is the third largest supplier of oil in the world, that is going to have an impact, and it is.
And so to that point, inflation goes up today. The president's statement blames the Putin price hike. Are you guys just going to start blaming Putin for everything until the midterms?
Well, we've seen the price of gas go up at least 75 cents since President Putin lined up troops on the border of Ukraine.
And last month, the statement didn't mention the Putin price hike. It mentioned inflation because of the pandemic. Why is that?
Well, Peter, last 2 years, there was a global pandemic. Everyone who's global economists have all agreed that has been the biggest contributor to date of inflation because of the impact on the supply chain. Obviously, global events impact the global economy, as well as global inflation. And the price hikes as a result that have escalated over the course of time of President Putin's further invasion of the impact on the global oil markets are, of course, having an impact.
Wow. Well, she was speaking reason for a moment there. Yeah, obviously, global events impact the global economy, the price. Well, of course, yeah. There was one point where crude, what was it, like -30 or something? They were literally paying you to take it off of their hands. I think it was a year and a half ago. Yeah, but again, we were looking at this live when it was happening, and it's when they started saying they're going to ban Russian oil, then it really went up. Yeah, so again, obviously it's true. What Russia did in Ukraine started it, but you made it way worse. Way, way, way worse. And now you're scrambling to try and replace it. And you're going and begging Maduro and begging Venezuela after trying to oust the guy for years. They've been telling us and saying that Maduro's not the president and he's a dictator and all this. And now all of a sudden they want to talk with him. Now all of a sudden he's okay to negotiate with, and Guaido doesn't exist. What is that? I don't know how long people are going to buy this game with, let's just blame Putin and for every single failure. I don't know who asked that question over here, but he was right. Like, are you just going to keep blaming Putin till the end of the midterms? It's ridiculous. There's only so much BS you can get through before it starts falling apart. You can't blame Russia for every single problem in the world. It doesn't mean Russia's perfect, but this is just childish. Again, it's propaganda. Putin's price hike. What a cheesy, tacky name. What a completely, what a completely stupid caveman mentality. It's so childish. It's so childish. Christ. And the worst part is people believe this. You see these tweets from liberals, rich liberals, right? Who they don't have any problems with paying higher prices at the pump, and they're totally fine with that. George Takei, or however you say his name. I showed you his tweet the other day where he was basically telling people that it's okay to pay higher gas prices just to stand up to Putin. Yeah, because you're not the one who's going to pay those higher gas prices or the higher food prices. See this tweet over here? He's saying, Americans, we can endure higher prices for food and gas if it means putting the screws to Putin. Consider it a patriotic donation in the fight for freedom over tyranny. No, it's not a patriotic donation. You're not the one paying it. You're incurring this cost. You're forcing it on people in the United States and in the West. I mean, there's only so much Russia can influence the economy, and then there's also you doing your bit. Do you understand? And again, when they're banning Russian oil, again, I'm going to put up this. I'm going to put up this statement for you. This was from the White House. The United States bans imports of Russian oil, liquefied natural gas, and coal. So again, this was on March 8th. Today, President Biden will sign an executive order to ban the import of Russian oil, LNG, and coal, a significant action with widespread bipartisan support that will further deprive President Putin of the economic resources, and so on and so on. Right? Again, of course, there is very, very significant bipartisan support. Well, of course. In all things war, in all things imperialism, in all things anti-Russia, of course, there's always consensus, right? So the final vote on that when they banned it was 414 to 17. 414 in favor of banning Russian imports, 17 against, with 2 Democrats, Cory Bush of Missouri and Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, and 15 Republican members voting against the bill. Yeah, I mean, in this case, Ilhan Omar is correct, but I wouldn't give her too much credit. She voted to send Israel military aid. It doesn't get bigger than that. What's next? Saudi Arabia? You're going to send them more? Like, I know people think that she might be a bit, she has a bit more redeemable qualities compared to the others in the squad. Nah, don't be fooled by that. Honestly, she was against condemning, she was against recognizing the Armenian genocide. And she voted to, again, send Israel $3.8 billion, right? Every year they get this package over 10 years. It's divided into yearly sums. She voted for that after they smeared her and attacked her as an anti-Semite and a million things. Explain that one to me. So I'm sorry, but just because she has a few other votes, it doesn't really make that okay. But in any case, you can see there's widespread bipartisan support. That's to be expected. Every time there's a war, every time there's something that is antagonistic, of course. And the squad they take turns, right? One time, some of them will vote badly. The next time they'll rotate. So you can't really get mad at one of them because you say, "Oh, look, there were some good votes here," and you forget the bad ones. No, it's rotating villain. I've already explained this, but yeah. So AOC, right? Jamal Bowman, Ayanna Pressley, they've all voted in favor of banning Russian oil. And then they say that, yeah, we care about workers and we're progressive and all that. No, you're idiots. You are making the price at the pump go even higher than what Russia is doing. You are contributing to this. And it's not just, leave the US aside. I wish it was just the US. The Americans, they're meddling in Germany as well. So they made sure that Nord Stream 2 is canceled. Like, you're meddling in Germany's affairs. And the people who are going to get screwed out of that, 50 billion cubic meters a year, that's the amount that Nord Stream 2 would have done. That's gas that would have gone to Europeans. So you're not the ones who are going to freeze because of that. So all of this crap, they put Ukraine in the crosshairs just so they can put some more missiles closer to Russia. And then Europeans have to freeze potentially, because who knows where this crisis is heading, just so they can antagonize Russia more. It's so stupid. They're shooting themselves in the foot in real time. Honestly, shooting themselves in the foot. It's unbelievable. And the fact that they're calling it the Putin price hike, that tells you so bad. It's such a tacky term, but it tells you very clearly that this is a propaganda effort to deflect blame. Right? So they don't want to take responsibility for contributing to the price hikes. So let's just blame it on the Russians, since that's what we're doing anyway. Everything that happens, every time someone shits and coughs, it's Putin's fault. Everything. Climate change is Putin's fault, you name it. And again, the big irony here, look at this, how proud they are. This is the White House. The White House. The Biden administration tweeting out how they're going to increase U.S. crude oil production. Hold on a second. Your idea of being less dependent on Russia is not to find alternatives for renewable energy or green energy. It's just to make more oil. So you're as a matter of fact, you're contributing to the problem. Wow, well done. Yeah, that's very climate conscious of you. I told you, man. I told you they would do this stuff. They're going to be just as bad as Republicans. There's no difference. They don't give a shit about the climate. Nothing. It's not serious. They're absolutely careless about this, and they have no respect. And then they want to convince you that Biden is a climate responsible president and all this crap. Where is it? Absolute garbage. Absolute complete propaganda and garbage. Christ. And you have rich liberals like this trying to justify the price, which they don't have to pay. Remember that. Here's Ned Price, so the State Department spokesperson. Take a look at what he's saying.
We will continue to back the people of Ukraine in their fight for their country through security, economic, and humanitarian assistance, and by uniting the international community to hold Putin accountable through devastating sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and other measures. As Vice President Harris noted today, the United States Congress has committed $13.6 billion in humanitarian aid and security assistance to support Ukraine and its people. We've imposed massive consequences on Putin and his cronies for their aggression. The severity of these unprecedented measures is already having a dramatic impact. The ruble has gone through the floor. It is close to worthless, literally worth less than a penny. Russia's credit rating is at junk status. Its stock market remains closed, and we've seen more than 300 companies halt or exit their operations in the Russian market. Putin could choose to cut his losses, extricate himself from this strategic morass by seeking to negotiate in good faith a diplomatic agreement with Ukraine. President Zelensky, for his part, has expressed interest in that, and we have told the Ukrainian government in no uncertain terms that we stand ready to support any diplomacy it wishes to pursue. But, as we've always said,
oh yeah, they're really ready for diplomacy. When Russia was trying for decades to tell them no NATO expansion, let's find a solution, they told Russia to go fuck itself. Where was the diplomacy there? In December, when Russia sent these proposals about NATO, they didn't even answer for a month. There's no diplomacy. That's complete nonsense. And even when there was diplomacy during the 2+4 negotiations, during German reunification, they told the Russians we won't expand NATO, and then they lied. That this is a complete joke. They tell the Russians it's a non-starter. We're not negotiating NATO membership. It's an open door. Anyone can join. We're not going to compromise on that. It's a non-starter. They don't care at all about diplomacy. Russia's been trying to find a diplomatic solution to that, and they did. Again, they promised the U.S. and its allies, Germany, the UK, all of these Western powers said, we won't expand past the Elbe if you support German reunification. There was a deal. They agreed on that. So there was diplomacy, and then who reneged on their promise? Did Russia stop supporting German reunification? No. Did the United States and its allies expand NATO? Yes, that's a broken promise. That's a fact, right? And again, that's a very clear thing that they don't want to talk about. They talk about diplomacy, but they don't care about diplomacy. And they're, you know, what's really kind of messed up is they're kind of like happy that they're crushing Russia's currency. Again, you know, sanctions don't hurt Putin. You know, as much as you hate him, he's unaffected. His oligarchs, as they say, you know, in the West, it's entrepreneurs. In Russia, it's oligarchs. They're not affected by this. It's just regular people who are hit by sanctions. Do you understand? That's true in every country. It's a lie. They tell you this lie that, you know, targeting, you know, politicians with sanctions, it's going to force them to change. No, the idea is that let's target this country with sanctions. We're going to make the people so upset, and we're going to make them starve, and hopefully then they will go and overthrow their leader. That's the whole idea behind sanctions, and, you know, needless to say, it doesn't really work. So, you know, it doesn't really work. Here's another tweet I wanted to show you. This is from Kathy Castor, right? So she's a congresswoman from Florida, right? So from Tampa Bay. She's saying that America will stand up for Ukraine and for freedom and democracy in Europe and across the globe, following the historic sanctions imposed by the president to hold Putin and Russia accountable. I voted to ban Russian oil and gas imports and send support to people of Ukraine and their armed forces. Yeah, they're like, yeah, let's just raise the price of everything. I send you my thoughts and prayers, right? It's here's my thoughts and prayers. You know, just meaningless gestures. Absolutely meaningless. Here's another one. This is from Jim Langevin. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly. He's from Rhode Island, congressman from Rhode Island. He's saying we must do everything in our power to bankrupt Putin's war machine. Although gas prices may rise at home, banning Russian oil is the right thing to do. With Biden, I'll work tirelessly to mitigate the impact of higher costs as we continue to stand up for Ukraine's democracy. Yeah, again, you know how they say Ukraine's democracy? First of all, what democracy? You engineered a coup in 2014 and got rid of the government and replaced it with a puppet government that's favorable to the West. So it's not really a government, or a democratic one for that matter. In any case, again, when they're saying, I'll work tirelessly to mitigate the impact of higher costs as we continue to stand up for Ukraine's democracy. Do you see how they're trying to sell you this idea that, yeah, it's all for freedom and democracy and these crappy buzzwords? It's so cheap. It's really so cheap. It's also a contradiction because on one hand, they say it's Putin's price hike, right? So Putin is apparently controlling the global oil prices. And then at the same time, they say, well, you know, this is just the way it is. We have to do this. So they're admitting that it's a consequence of standing up for to Russia. So which one is it? I think it's both. As I told you, when Russia went into Ukraine, the prices went up. That's obvious. But now they made them even worse. That's all I'm saying. And I think that's evident just by looking at the prices of gas in Europe and the crude oil. That is exactly what happened. You can see it by date, right? So look at this. I already showed you British gas, right? Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, that really concludes the point. I think it's funny how they always want to blame Putin for everything. It gets old, doesn't it? It gets old. Good luck replacing the crude. What am I supposed to say? Good luck. That's not going to be easy. And in the end, just to give you an idea, the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline. So Russia already has one with China. Okay, they already have a pipeline called Power of Siberia, and they signed a 30-year gas deal just last month with the Chinese, settled in euros, and it will move about the same quantity that Nord Stream moves. Now, they could also build Power of Siberia 2, which would go through Mongolia and to China. Okay, and so this would also move more or less the same amount. So my point here, what I'm trying to tell you is that while the United States and Europe will struggle to find alternatives for, to replace the gas, even if it's LNG or crude, Russia has the possibility to turn elsewhere. It can build more pipelines with China and its Eurasian partners and move the same amount. So this would also be 50 billion cubic meters, which is roughly the same as Nord Stream 2. And you get the idea. And the idea that the United States and Europe can replace, let's say, you want to replace Russian gas with liquefied natural gas from the United States by building some terminals, or you want to get it from Qatar, it's going to incur such high costs. It's just not feasible. It's stupid. It's economically, logistically a bad idea. But of course, there's money to be made for the people who are running these industries. So for them, it makes total sense. But you get the idea that these rich liberal elites telling you to pay the price for democracy, they're not paying the price. And in the long term, Russia is actually going to benefit from this because it's going to decouple itself from the US dollar, from the euro, and it's going to decouple itself from also, exporting all of its resources to Europe and the US and look forward to Asia, right? And it's going to drive the emergence of a multipolar world. So again, they're shooting themselves in the foot. And the people who are living in the West, they're just so propagandized, again, through no fault of their own. It's just that the propaganda is so powerful, they make them think that, it's something smart.